Hello.
Good evening. How's it going?
Good. How is everyone?
Cold. It's so damp, and I don't get cold, but I've been drinking hot tea, which is unusual. I usually only do that when I'm sick.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out something here. My challenge is that I have a I have changed my iPad, whatchamacallit, my iPad format, and it means that I don't know. Um, eh, let's see. I'm trying to be able to watch, be able to look at my Kindle at the same time, and I'm not having much success with that. But let me see what I can do. Sorry, this is a little more confusing than I thought. Okay, sorry guys.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Gilia.
I get it, yeah.
Okay. Um, all right. Okay, well, that's a little there. This is a little better. I can do this now. Great. All right. So,
If I ask you a question before you start.
go for it.
Do you need the table in the conference room anytime that you're in town?
Do I
Can
need
you
the
think of any reason why would you would need it?
in the library, you mean?
Yeah, yeah, the library.
Um, I don't I don't think I do.
Okay, all right. That's all I need to know. I didn't want to leave you out. I have some books I'm gonna be laying out, and I didn't want to get in your way.
Oh, okay. All right. No, that's fine. No, I appreciate it. I just, yeah, I wasn't sure whether you meant that you wanted to, remove them entirely. So
No, no, no. Just use the table.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
All good. All good. So, okay. Good. It's going to take me a while to get used to this whole new iPad thing, but that is my problem and not yours. Okay, so welcome back and welcome to. Well, before we get into talking about the Psalm, I have updated a little bit. I've updated a little bit the schedule. We are going to meet next week in addition. Um, so those will be the two. So tonight and next week will be our two December times, and I will be in Knoxville on that next Monday. So if you want to come in person, you're welcome to. If not, we'll still be running the Zoom, of course. And then I may have changed some of the schedule for January. I think I did. But our January dates are going to be the 12th and the 26th. Both of those, and the 12th, I'm also going to be in town on the 12th. So that, if you want to be in person for that. In February, going to do the 9th and the 23rd. And then in March, do I have March down? You know what? Let's see. And then in March it's also going to be the 9th and the 23rd. So, and then April, let's get through Passover first to talk about April. So hopefully that'll be okay. All right. So and welcome to my favorite psalm. Psalm 27 is my favorite psalm. It doesn't have to be yours. You'll see. You'll see what you think. But
Why?
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 I think it'll hopefully as we go through it, I'll point out a couple points that I particularly relate to. I what can I say? I really like I do like the fact that first of all, I mean, I always enjoy the high holidays, and this psalm is very much linked to the high holidays.
Okay.
So that's something that that I immediately connect with. So that'll be, I guess, I'll be the first reason that I can mention, and then we'll talk about others.
Okay.
But yeah, so Psalm 27, my favorite psalm. We'll see if we get through all of it, but we'll give it a shot for now. So
Excuse me, Rabbi, I missed the part about the dates for the next few sessions.
okay, so it is tonight. So December, it's tonight and the 15th.
Mm-hmm.
In January, it will be the 12th and the 26th. February will be the 9th and the 23rd.
Okay.
And March will also be the 9th and the 23rd.
Okay. Thanks.
No problem. All good. So, all right, let's get to Safaria and we will go from there. Okay. All right. Oftentimes, so like I mentioned, this particular psalm is linked with the high holidays, and so oftentimes we refer to it as La David, simply as by the very first word of it. Even though numerous psalms begin with La David, this one is the particular La David. And this is for the most part, also a psalm of confidence. And we add it to morning services and evening services for almost 2 months. So this one is, as you might imagine, this one's pretty famous. If you attend synagogue services, we start 1 month before Rosh Hashanah. We start during the beginning of the month of Elul, and then we go through the what's known as Hoshana Rabbah. Hoshana Rabbah is the final day of Sukkot. So it's almost 2 months in the Hebrew calendar of including this particular psalm. All right, so let's see. Linda, will you do the honors of the first 2 psalms that you see here?
David, the Lord is my light and my help. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Whom should I dread? When evil men assail me to devour my flesh, it is they, my foes and my enemies, who stumble and fall.
All right. And it's the confidence here is, speaking of these enemies, as many psalms do, and saying, yeah, but I'm going to be okay. Let's bring an altar regarding the beginning of this, which kind of sets the tone for the entire psalm. This psalm is a supplication, he writes, in which, as elsewhere, a speaker in great distress implores God to intervene on his behalf. The distinction of emphasis is that the poem begins with a confident affirmation of God as the source of help under all grave threats. This positive note is continued through verses 2 and 3, 5 and 6, and most extravagantly in verse 10. But this sense of trust in a psalm that manifests powerful psychological verisimilitude does not preclude a feeling of fearful urgency in the speaker's plea to God. So it's this mixture of confidence and fear that we're going to see throughout this particular psalm, which is very understandable given the importance of the high holidays, and given the themes of the high holidays. We are at once declaring at the top of our lungs, that Adonai is sovereign, and at the same time, we are talking about, will we be accepted? Will we be written into the book of life? So this mixture of confidence and cowering, if you will. I mean, not cowering, but of fear. And so in a sense, it's these mixed emotions, right? It says,
Yeah.
Whom should I fear? And well, the fear is quite there. It's very much there.
But the confidence doesn't have the haughtiness of the previous psalm that we studied last time. This this narrator is quite humble, and although he's confident, he's clearly he doesn't think it has anything to do with him. That he has confidence and that God is taking care of him and looking out for him. It's because God wants to do it.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, there is a vulnerability that shines through,
Yeah.
and which makes sense.
It's the right mood for the high holidays, right?
Unquestionably, yeah. So it works. It works well here. This part here where in verse 2 it says, to devour my flesh, even you may assail me to devour my flesh. The sense of it based on the way that the way that this phrase is used in other parts of the Bible, specifically in the book of Daniel, it's to slander me is the general sense of it. So we are not saying that these enemies are literally cannibals, or at least that's the general sense is that they're going to, when we say proverbially, oh my goodness, I'm going to get eaten alive here. That's the kind of eaten alive that we're talking about. We're going to have our reputation torn to shreds.
But the evil men may do that because, for instance, Rabbi Akiva goes to heaven, goes to his afterlife as the flesh is being torn from him. Yeah. So there is like that, though. Yeah.
No question. Yeah. So that's very much part of this. Maybe Gilia, if you can, if you would read for us verses 3 and 4.
Should an army besiege me, my heart would have no fear. Should war beset me, still would I be confident. One thing I ask of the Lord, only that I do seek, to live in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord, to frequent his temple.
Okay. So I'll start with, in terms of what makes this to answer Richard's question, like, why is this my favorite psalm? This verse has a lot to do with it. In other words, it's this desire, not necessarily to understand everything about God, but just let me in your house. Let me appreciate. It doesn't mean that we have to understand or fully grasp everything that God is or isn't or anything like that. The idea is just let me in the door, let me in, allow me to feel a part of things. I feel that idea resonates with me very much. So um, this is one reason why I enjoy this. Now I'm going to delve into a little bit of musical stuff here. Uh, uh, there is there are like a number of tunes for verse 4, Achad sha'alti me'et Adonai ota avakesh shivti b'veit Adonai kol yemei chayai. Now, um, and a more modern one that you hear is kind of mellow. It's like I hear nah, I'm not doing that. Achad sha'alti me'et Adonai ota avakesh. So it kind of goes like that, and it's a nice meditative idea. Now, when I first learned this phrase, so I don't know if I've talked in this space about Zmirot. Zmirot are, Zmirot means, songs or tunes or what have you. But specifically when people in the Shabbat community refers to Zmirot, they're often talking about songs that are sung at Shabbat tables, meaning when you're
Mm.
gathering for Shabbat dinner, when you're gathering for Shabbat lunch, and usually before the Birkat Hamazon, the grace after meals, although sometimes plenty of times after as well. There's a custom that you sing songs, and they are meant to be a mixture of kind of mellow songs, but also many times very fun and kind of ruckus songs even. For a lot of people, this is what helped them to kind of fall in love with Shabbat observance, is to gather around the table and sing Zmirot. So when I first learned this verse, Chad Shalti Me'etz Adonai Ota Vakesh, it was done not in a mellow way that I just sang, but rather in a very fast-paced and frankly almost comedic way. I'm going to mention what this is. It would go, Achalti me'et Adonai, ota avakesh. Achalti me'et Adonai, ota avakesh. So now that's the first part, and that's the part that is, it's upbeat, as you can tell, and rather fast. Here's where it gets a little goofy when we get to shifty, 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 and then we go woo. So we go shifty, 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 woo, shifty bevet Adonai, kol yemei chayai, kol yemei chayai, shifty, 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 woo, shifty bevet Adonai, kol yemei chayai. Now, to add to the chaos of this, when I first learned this, what I would see people do is, this was at like a Shabbaton, this is like a bunch of teenagers at sharing, doing Shabbat together, and having, and having their meals and doing, and kind of, having fun and everything like that. And when we got to shifty, 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 and then when we said woo, there were people who would literally, they would all put their hands under the table and lift the table up. And now granted, this was not like this was like a relatively light, like a folding table where you could eat, you could lift it without, with some help. So but even with the food still on there, they would lift it slightly off the ground. So that was a little, I was like, well, what are they doing here? And then of course how I would try to make fun of the words a little bit. So I would when they would go shifty, 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 I would look at somebody next to me and go, who are you calling shifty? Why are you calling me shifty? I mean, all right, so you get that. Anyway, so this is one of this is one of these sort of core Jewish memories that I had of watching, when I was, 12 years old, watching these high school students singing this song, full-throatedly and lifting tables. Um,
Sounds joyful.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a fun time. What can I tell you? So yeah, yeah. So that this is another positive association I have with this psalm. So I think this might be another one. Um, Now, of course, this idea, one thing do I ask of Adonai in verse 4. Let's talk about what Alter has to say about this. Um, he writes, in a casual glance, this verse may look like a non sequitur. The speaker, having expressed his firm confidence in God as his rescuer in distress, suddenly declares that his most cherished desire is to spend all his time in the temple. But as we have seen in other Psalms, the privilege of enjoying God's presence in the Jerusalem sanctuary is a consequence of having followed the ways that God dictates to man. And the temple itself within the walled city is repeatedly seen as a sanctuary in the political sense, a place of secure refuge from threatening foes. There is then a logical link between this verse and the next one, in which God provides a shelter and a safe hiding place. So, in other words, it goes beyond the idea of being in the temple, which we would call God's house. It's that God will provide, that the specific house doesn't necessarily matter. What matters more is that God is providing us with sanctuary in the broad sense of it, not necessarily the sanctuary. Um, so that's another thing that I enjoy about it, that it's this idea of yeah, I mean, it's to be in the place that has been designated God's house is certainly of comfort, but also the idea that when push comes to shove, almost anything can be God's house. Any questions or comments on this part?
Rabbi Shush would do this in her healing service.
I was gonna say, yeah.
And when
Yeah.
was it Saliq when all three rabbis did that? I think this verse.
At Slichot, yeah. I think we had several people sing along with that. Sure. Yeah. Makes sense, I mean, as Slichot is as we do that prior to high holidays, then yeah. It makes sense.
But it's very much a contrast to what the melody you used and the image of lifting the table, right? Joyfully. So it's quite a contrast between that and the somberness of Slichut. So.
Yeah, no, it's true. And so but it's this we are going to at some point, I'm forgetting which psalm it is, but the this phrase, Ivdu et Adonai besimcha, right? That to worship God, to work for God, if you in more literal sense, but to worship God in joy.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, and look, there's plenty of places for the mellower tunes, no question. And then it's also fun to kind of let loose here and there.
Absolutely.
Just be very cognizant of whatever table you're at before attempting that at home. Richard, would you like to do 5 and 6 for us, please?
Yes. He will shelter me in his pavilion on an evil day. Grant me the protection of his tent. Raise me high upon a rock. Now is my head high over the enemies round about. I sacrifice in his tent with shouts of joy, singing and chanting a hymn to the Lord.
Okay. All right. So there are some interesting things. Uh, so like Biyom Ra, I don't really know what what this evil day is, right? On an evil day, that's kind of an interesting turn of phrase. But let's look for a second, in terms of pavilion and then tent in verse 5, right? Uh, you know, Sukkot, in Hebrew, it's like sukkah, right? The huts, that the temporary hut that we build for Sukkot, right? So it's like in God's sukkah, we are sheltered, and then you have um, on the next line in Hebrew, aholo, meaning God's tent, right? So you're talking about, two different things, right? Two different tents. And as the joke goes, doctor, I had the strangest dreams recently. It says to his therapist, right? I had the strangest dreams. Last night, I dreamt that was transformed into a teepee, and the night before, I dreamt that I was transformed into a wigwam. And the therapist looks at him and says, "Well, it's very clear you're too tense." Um, so here we have two tens.
I heard that on Wings. They told a joke about 2 tens.
Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, so what Alter has to say about that, about the tense, it says the two nouns, he writes, are drawn from the lexicon of nomadic habitation. Here they are used in subtle metaphorical understatement as designations for a much more solid and imposing structure, as the third term in the sequence at the end of the verse, rock, suggests. Right? So in other words, these pavilions and tents, these are, lest we think that these are flimsy structures. No, they are as solid as a rock. Or at least they feel as solid as a rock. Regarding verse 6, this, here though, by contrast, his, when it says God's tent, right? I sacrifice in God's tent. That is actually, now we're back talking about the actual temple. Because it's like, I sacrifice in God's tent. So it's so anyway, so that's so those are a couple of things to keep in mind there. Let's see. Okay, we are trying to do this. Okay. Let's do this. Okay. All right. Okay, we're going to do, let's see. Marcus, would you be willing to do 7, 8, 9?
Sure. Oh, Hashem. In your behalf, my heart says.
Just a little before where it says, "Hear, O Lord."
Okay. Yeah, I didn't quite see how the 7 relates to.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I got a little wonky there.
Hear, O Lord, when I cry aloud, have mercy on me, answer me. In your behalf, my heart says, seek my face. O Lord, I seek your face. Do not hide your face from me. Do not thrust aside your servant in anger. You have ever been my help. Do not forsake me. Do not abandon me, O God, my deliverer.
All right. So, here you have, all right, so we have this idea of, we were talking about, locations and tents and everything like that. when we had said earlier in verse 6, right, that you're singing and, shouts of joy, singing and chanting a hymn. And now you have this, now you have the parrot, now you have this sort of this opposite emotion, right? Like, have mercy on me, answer me. Suddenly this joyous yell has become one of trepidation, right? Have mercy on me, right? And but I think that, what I find meaningful about verse 7 is this idea of, um, my heart says, seek my face, um, that I seek your face. Like, it's, again, like when we are praying, especially at a time as uh, as potentially harrowing as the high holidays. Um, we have sort of this mixture of emotions, but what do we want in the end of the day is just be close, be close. That's all we can say, because it is a certain admission of our lack of control over everything, right? We understand that we're not that we're not the ones who determine every bit of our fate. And so all we ask is that we get a fair hearing, if you will. All we ask is for a chance. So,
Rabbi,
yeah,
would you scroll back up to where this psalm started for just a second?
not a
Doesn't he
problem.
talk about seeking there? Yeah. Um, a little bit,
A little farther.
yeah, a little bit down from
Oh, only that do I seek.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
one thing I ask for the Lord, only that will I seek after. So it's reiterated again, this seeking.
Yeah, yeah. Um, this there's another part of the High Holiday liturgy, kind of a famous part, called, known as the Unatana Tokef, where we are um, talking about sort of being held accountable. And it talks about sort of the vulnerable state we're in. It's the statement of, this is where the idea of uh, being written in the book of, are we written in the book of life or not? That, how our fate is very much up for grabs, if you will, or at least certainly not anything that we can, that we're able to grasp. Um, and we don't necessarily have full confidence that we're going to um, get off scot-free, if you will. Right? We don't have that confidence. Even, there's a statement at the end, in the middle of Unatana Tokef, that if we are doing teshuvah, right? If we're doing repentance, and if we're committing ourselves to tzedakah, to acts of righteousness and charity, if we are tefillah, if we are praying, that will lessen the harshness of the decree. It doesn't say, okay, all we have to do is truly repent and everything like that. Then everything's necessarily going to be fine and dandy. That's not what it means. It means that, like, okay, we are still held accountable for decisions we make. We can, however, potentially impact how what our evaluation is going to be. So it's this, so, I said at the beginning, this is a psalm of confidence. The confidence is somewhat, is muted to an extent. But in that is an acknowledgement of our limitations. And isn't mortality really an acknowledgement of our limitations as well? Going back to verse 9, where it says, don't hide your face from me. Um, uh, Alter comments that when it says face, that it suggests presence. However, the anthropomorphic concreteness of the word face is palpable. The speaker desperately seeks God's face, a privilege denied Moses. The practical manifestation of God's turning away God's face would be abandoning the person to his enemies. So I think it's an important point. Here's the speaker asking for something that God did not even ask, that didn't even grant to, God's ultimate servant. Right?
Rabbi,
And yeah,
that going back to verse 8,
yeah,
my heart says, seek my face. There's depth there that I'm not understanding, I think, because he's quoting God. God's really the one saying, "Seek my face."
mhm.
Um, but I just think there's more to that B part of that verse.
Yeah, it is a little abrupt, isn't it? Like, so now let's take a look at here where it says, in your behalf, where, this is one of those, meaning of Hebrew uncertain. Alter's translation is of you. I mean, again, it's more literal. Lecha,
Lechatz, I mean, just to
like
you.
regarding, to you or regarding you. My heart says, seek my face. I mean, so yeah, it is kind of, yeah, there is something. It feels like this is left a little bit on the table here.
It's like his heart is quoting God
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
way
that's
that.
certainly the way they've um, decided to interpret here this year by putting the "seek my face" in quotes. But I mean,
Um,
since
it,
there are no punctuations in the Hebrew, could that also mean actually uh, my God says to Lord, seek my face, and I am seeking yours.
Say that again, Marcus.
Just I mean, if you take this instead of the translation there in your behalf, say uh, to God, to you, that is to God, my heart says, seek my face. O God, I seek your face.
Well, if they hadn't capitalized my, then
right,
then I could
And,
right.
see it
and
says,
that, yeah,
God, I want you to see my face as I seek yours. That works for me.
So, the great contemporary philosopher Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, wrote, books like, I think one of them is called God in Search of Man, and I think wrote another
Yeah.
one, and then another one that's I think called Man's Search for God or something like that, which one of my colleagues once referred to as the Peekaboo book series, meaning like, you know, God in search of man, man in search of God, peekaboo, uh, but yeah, I mean, uh, and the statement of Moses asking to see God's face and God saying, no, sorry, human beings don't get that privilege. Um, uh, then, or they don't get to see it and then survive. Um, so you're, in a sense, like it's like you're asking for the impossible, right? The person is asking for the impossible. Then again, sometimes when we're looking, when we're asking someone for something, you have to at least sometimes you have to ask for more than what they can offer and then be willing to accept something that's not quite as massive as whatever you're asking. You know what I'm saying?
Like a negotiation where you ask for more than you know you're going to get, so they have some room to move.
Yeah, and then there's room to negotiate. There's room to go back and forth. I have to wonder whether that's part of the thinking there. And obviously this is something in hyperbole, but like someone who loves someone else, like I want to spend every moment with you or something like that. Well, uh, you know uh, that probably won't necessarily happen, right? Where you can spend literally every moment with somebody else, but will that person who loves you back be willing to spend a lot of moments? Sure, right? And I recognize that that might be considered a hyperbolic statement, but maybe this is kind of a hyperbolic statement too. I seek
Mhm.
your face. I seek your face. All right, maybe you're not going to actually get God's face, but you can get, you know, recognition,
Yeah.
and maybe that's good enough.
And we get God's back on
And
the
we get,
fourth.
exactly.
Yeah.
I do find, I mean, and maybe again, maybe it's just a matter of, expressions or whatever it is, but language is important to note that, like, we have this expression, I got your back, I have your back. All right. Well, you could say, well, why don't you have the rest of me too? But like, but having your back is this statement that we have of real and real support. you
Right.
know, and that counts for something.
It sort
Oh,
of goes back to what you were saying
yeah,
about wanting to spend all this time with somebody. But basically, what it's saying is, I want, all of you. I mean, I'm in.
yeah, all in, certainly. Um, now, um, Will, would you like to read?
I'll pass.
Okay, not a problem, not a problem. Mary Linda, would you be willing to do 10, 11, 12?
Though my father and mother abandon me, the Lord will take me in. Show me your way, O Lord, and lead me on a level path because of my watchful foes.
Okay, just one more if you would.
Do not subject me to the will of my foes, for false witnesses and unjust accusers have appeared against me.
Okay, okay, great. Yeah, I mean, this line always gets me, right? Though my father and mother abandon me, Adonai will take me in. And it's um, let me read what Alter has to say about it. The extravagance of this declaration of trust in God, perhaps the most extreme in the whole Bible, is breathtaking and perhaps even disturbing. In the best of circumstance, the most unconditional, unstinting love and care we experience are from a mother and father. We can imagine the psalmist says, circumstances in which even that love might fail, but God will be both father and mother to him in the most dire straits. Um, this is another reason. I mean, this verse is another reason why this is my favorite psalm. Um, and I don't take this as literal, like father and one's father and mother, literally, abandoning me, like, saying that they don't care, right? I mean, I think it's a reference to the idea that our parents are not around forever. I mean, none of us are, of course, but our parents are not around forever. And um, but here is this statement of, there are very few things in life that are eternal, and the idea is that God is one of them. And is this should this be understood as God is, literally, in place of our parents? I don't know if I mean, it's hard for me to want to go that far. Um, but I do think that it's a stunning statement. And to note that, um, there is you know, our human relationships are obviously uh, a central part of our experience in life, but so are our connection, which um, to that which is not human in form or actuality. Um, there are times where we need something beyond what a human being can provide. And whether that one is God, whether that is um, uh, a general philosophy, whether it's loving what we do with our time. I mean, it can manifest itself in a lot of different ways, religious or otherwise. But uh, there's another psalm that we say in the Hallel service, in which it says Kol ha'adam kozev,
Mhm.
which means that which means all of humanity is unreliable. Okay, it's a bit much, but um, uh, but it's but that at the end of the day, um, if we are to hang all of our hopes on another person, that can't be enough, because we are all fallible, and um, we have to be able to trust in something more than just individual human beings. That's how I read it. Any other thoughts or comments on that?
Yeah, I think that the relationship we have with God is at a different level than the relationship with our parents. It's because in that earlier verse about the face, it says, "In my heart, I I say, show your face to me," and that's something that goes deeper, and it's something that only ends when our life ends. It doesn't end any time during our lifetime. So the fact that God is protecting us is with us anywhere, anytime. It doesn't matter what the situation is.
Sure.
So.
No question. No question. Yeah. And again, like, this does go back and forth a little bit here, because you have 11 and 12 talking about, enemies and people who are trying to, slander us, and trying to get us, and we're looking for God's guidance. Um, Let me go to the conclusion of the psalm here. So I'll just read these last two. Lulei hamanti l'ropa tuv Adonai be'eretz chayim. Had I not the insurance, sorry, had I not the assurance that I would enjoy the goodness of Adonai in the land of the living. Kaveh el Adonai chazak v'yametz libecha v'kaveh el Adonai. Look to Adonai, be strong and of good courage. Oh, look to Adonai. Okay, 13 is a bit of a fragment, isn't it?
Well, the way the English is translated, but with the Hebrew, that what we would call a colon, what does that imply in the Hebrew?
Well, I mean, the colon is just the like it's essentially it's a it's the same as a period in English. So it doesn't necessarily give us much there.
The question about the Hebrew I had, what are these
Yeah,
dots over Lulea?
Yeah, I
I yeah, I had the same question.
yeah, I mean, look, these are scribal notations. In other words, if you were to look at an original text, like in other words, if I assume that a lot of the Psalms that Psalms can be found in different of the Dead Sea Scrolls, for instance. Um, like these would be like like those dots refer to scribal notations. We don't necessarily know why certain words in the Tanakh have these particular dots above or below. Um,
There certainly must have been something that was noteworthy to the scribe to put there.
no question, no question.
What does that word translate as? Lou.
Lule.
Uh-huh.
Lule means, um, so I mean, like you could look at it as had I not the way that this is translated, or it's like, or oftentimes it's if only. Um, but for the, like, if only is oftentimes how this is understood. Um, and yeah, it's a bit of a fragment, and one might assume that the what follows verse 13 has been lost to history, and maybe that's why there was a scribal note here at the word lule. In other words, warning: this is an incomplete thought. That's only a guess. That's only a guess, but one that I just want to kind of throw out as a possibility. Um, look, by the way, when you look in a Torah scroll, I mean, there are words here and there that have dots above or below it in the Torah that are not meant to be, and they're not meant to be cancellation marks, but they are put in the Torah, and they are, and ascribed to this day when creating a new Torah scroll has to put those dots in. I mean, it's not like some scribe put that in, but we don't have to worry about that. No, 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 we have to. And um, there are times where those dots refer to something. I mean, it's intriguing when you see the dots and when you don't. And it's kind of one of those ongoing mysteries, honestly.
Hmm.
Now, regarding the last verse, Alter writes, this last exhortation, whether of the speaker to himself or to an individual member of his audience, in other words, there's a thought that perhaps this was something added on later, is an apt summary of the psychology that informs this psalm. It begins by affirming trust in God and reiterates that hopeful confidence, but the trust has to be asserted against the terrors of being overwhelmed by implacable enemies.
To me, that's almost the way I'm reading those two 13 verses, 13 and 14. It's like the 14th verse is he's talking back to himself. The poet's talking to himself
Yeah,
in response to, okay, if I didn't have the assurance, but look to the Lord, be strong and of good courage. And it's like a call and response with himself.
yeah,
And of course, Sakwaya Amet is one of the watchwords of the early Zionism, right? From the Yishuv.
right. The idea of strong and of good, being
Right,
strong and of good courage. I mean,
right.
and that phrase is used quite a bit with Joshua.
Mm-hmm.
Joshua says it, and also Moses says it to and about Joshua as he's handing over the mantle of leadership. Um, so it's this, I think I'm drawn to the fragility of this psalm more than anything. Um, it's like we are confident, we are cautiously optimistic.
Working through this one in English so that I can understand it instead of just the Hebrew that resonates with me. I understand how it makes sense to read it every day for the month of Elul.
Yeah.
It really feels right. I'm meeting it in a whole different level today.
Yeah.
Rabbi,
Yeah. Yeah.
something that Mary Linda said just kind of resonates with me. It says, had I not the assurance that I would enjoy the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living, it's kind of like, I can't even conceive of that. It's like he's thinking, it's like, I can't even, that's an impossibility. So it goes then to look to the Lord, be strong and of good courage.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, I mean, because like sometimes we have those moments where we, we consider a thought and then we're like, oh, I can't even, I can't even imagine.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's
and it's like,
like,
You can't conceive of it.
yeah.
uh-huh. It's like if the sentence starts with if I had not the assurance, and then what would happen? Then what would happen?
Yeah.
Would we lose our faith? Would we? No, but he then makes sure that we understand that we have to be strong and of good courage, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
No matter what.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as always, appreciate the exploration of this psalm together and of the of being able to delve into it. And by the way, I mean it's not like I mean there are I don't want to make it sound like this is my favorite psalm. It all goes downhill from here. Not at all. I mean, there's plenty else to grab hold of. And by the way, just because it's my favorite doesn't mean it has to be yours. So
When Josh Gettinger reads Torah, each parsha of that week is my favorite parsha. I
yeah,
mean, that's just Josh's approach.
and I think it's a lovely one. So
I can
um,
understand why
yeah,
it's your favorite psalm.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's
Beautiful.
I think there's a good case. So
I saw
um,
another verse that Rabbi Shush sung with, the one that says Shema Adonai Koli. It was like 6 or 7 verse.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean there have been a lot of musical interpretations of it. So yeah. All right, so I'll see you in a week on the 15th, and if you want to come to the show, by all means. If you want to just stay on Zoom, all good too. So, I
Happy Hanukkah.
happy Hanukkah. We'll yeah. So and we'll maybe
And
we
you'll
should.
have lunch and learn on Wednesday,
And I do have lunch. I
Hmm.
have lunch and learn this Wednesday,
right?
and Judy's 101 on Sunday. So
Right.
we're keeping it going.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
That's right.
very
you.
Good
much.
night, y'all.
All
Rabbi.
Yeah,
right. Have a good night.
next
Good night,
week will be a
everybody.
bit far
Everybody.
for
Have a
me.
good night.